Hey everyone, welcome to Repeat Offender, the new type of toned and toneful episode, which is going to feature songs that I listen to on repeat every week. As you can see from the intro, one of my favorite places to listen to music is while riding my bike. And on top of that, while I'm lifting weights and while I'm walking around town doing little things that I got to do. But music is my passion. And I wanted to share some different things with you guys in my musical passions that you might not know I listen to. A lot of you know me for instrumental rock guitar, but outside of that, there's so many things that I listen to, from Bjork to world music to metalcore music. I'm listening to the screaming, I'm listening to the singing. I love it all. And of course, more instrumental guitar music, right? Like, why wouldn't I be listening to that? But I wanted to share these different songs with you guys to give you a little bit of insight on where some of the knowledge in the toned and toneful episodes come from, but in a little more of a fun fashion. I wanted this to be something that was a little more outspoken, while toned and toneful is about that internal self-reflection and actualizing of the self. This is about how the music makes me feel. This isn't going to be Rick Beato level, breakdowns, but what this is going to be is my emotional feel and what I love about the songs. And of course, for the first episode, I picked my song, Breathe the Life, which I released in 2025, last April. And I just wanted to go over why I felt so emotional about creating that song and some of the different elements that went into why that song is the way it is. So I'm really excited to get into this with you guys. As you can see, I'm ready to have some fun. You can see that the logo here for, Toned and Toneful is the actual death metal version of the logo, which I'm hoping to have some merch for you guys soon. It's something I've been thinking a lot about, but I'm looking forward to sharing that with you guys. Can't wait to tell you guys a little more about the song. Let's go. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that piece of artwork that I just showed you by Jan Matthews. I'm going to be showing you definitely and talking more about the story behind that artwork, but that is the artwork for Breathe the Life. This story starts in 2018 with this guitar right here. This is the Tom Anderson Guardian Angel player, and it's Olympic white, and this was the guitar that Breathe the Life was originally recorded on. And what a fun time in my life, especially for a first single. I love this song. And, it was all started off as like a jam between a friend of mine, Brandon, and I. We had started off with, writing these jams in B minor, and we were just feeling very emotional. And so we needed a simple thing to just jam over. And we were kind of vamping on this like B minor to D major chord kind of sound. And we were just kind of going back and forth on those chords, and I kept jamming it, and there was just something I really liked about it. And of course, as time went on, Brandon and I, we kind of just didn't jam on those chord progressions anymore, but I was still kind of on it. I was still in this mood that the jam just still kind of had my heart. And so that's kind of where the original arpeggiation comes in the song, right at the beginning here. And so I'm going to use the song as kind of a way to guide me through the description of the things that happened. But, this song was originally, started again in 2018. And so here we go. Going to give you guys the intro right here. Love that intro. And you can hear already right off the top, we go from that arpeggiated kind of like guitar sound, and that's an arpeggiated kind of guitar sound where it's being tapped out, and it's doubled with a piano, and it goes right into this guitar hook. Wah wanna wah wanna wah wanna wah. That original guitar part was actually really trying to emulate a saxophone. And, at the time I was listening to a lot of Sean Lane, and I was listening to a lot of like horn players and guitar players who played like horn players. And this was such a big idea to me at the time. I was having so much fun with the idea that this could be, something more melodic. And for me, again, every time I write a song and every time I work on something, I do not mind shredding, but you've got to have that hook, that gripping melody that no matter when it comes back in the song, it just re-grabs you. It holds you like a warm blanket. And, that original melody, to me really grabbed me. And it was a really fun whammy bar thing. And this really inspired this first section. So, let's keep listening to it. That piano was a big deal. That triumphant last note right there, and for a long time, this is all I had of the song. I think that last note was just like me being like, yes, I wrote this really cool first section. And I remember thinking that for a long time. And, I was kind of stuck there. I was like, I had written up to that point. And I was thinking, like, where does a song like this go? You've got this beat that's a 3 pattern, but I'm playing in 4s on top. So it's kind of like they're aligning at certain sections of it. And to me, it was just like, it had this flow to it. It had this certain softness that I really got along with that sound. But at the same time, it had enough jazziness and enough rock in it that I was like, where do I take it from here? And so being stuck at this part was kind of interesting because in one hand, I was really proud that I had a melody that was, just really put together and really like structured like a singer. And again, it's not that I couldn't shred more, could always shred more. You can always throw more, tapping in there. You can always throw more complex lines, but I mean, this song was, really my first time, me really sitting in the backseat and being a listener, that repeat offender. I listened to this thing like crazy at first. I remember just listening to this first part and being so into how it went and being really happy with like the piano kind of having some different chord structures, some sus chords. And it was just really opening my mind up to these different sounds that could be in my music. And again, so I was stuck there for a really long time. And, I had kind of pieced together a version of this song because I was going to play it at the NAMM 2019 show. And I thought for a second it was 2018, but 2018 I played with Sean Ash. But 2019, this was my first time playing at the Anderson Guitar Works booth on my own. And so this song was going to be my debut song there. So it was a big deal. And, funny enough, I kind of pushed through and Sean had helped me with this really nice vocal layer that you hear on top with the kind of really beautiful interlude to the next section. But this is where I think the song really started to come together with this really great jazz guitar, kind of sound. I was really inspired by like George Benson and some other players I was listening to at the time. And I really wanted that like Pat Martino, like you pick every note kind of sound. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, let's take a listen to that. Yeah, that reverb. That reverb's good. Yo. And, right before it goes into the solo, I wanted to stop it there because we got a little sample of really what that jazz section of the song was like. And to me, when this part of the song actually happened, I finally felt like it was Breathe the Life. And Breathe the Life was finally the name of the song. And I knew it was about letting yourself feel the serenity. I knew it was about that point in life where when you choose something for yourself, you're finally alive. Your first breath of life is when you become a creator yourself. When you finally decide that you want something to be a certain way and you want things to look and live a certain way. And I remember that being such a big change in my mind because previously, this section kind of hadn't really come together, like really the way that you hear it as it is until, I had started really kind of looking at the music as like, this is a song, man. And you really need to have something that not only displays like, some of the talent that you've tried to build, that's not even the right word, not talent, but maybe some of the skills from the toolbox that you've built and really put it out there for people to hear and have it in a format that's something that's listenable, that you can listen to 100 times in a row. And from what I've heard from many people, Breathe the Life is a song that they can listen to consistently again and again because of the fact that it has that element of melodic nature that it breathes in and out. And like the, verse in the Bible, Genesis 2:7, that this song name is inspired by the breath of life, when God breathes the breath of life into Adam. And how when we choose that moment to live, we're finally alive. You know what I mean? And so it was like, finally feeling out these sections, the first, part with like that high gain, searing lead sound that was almost like a saxophone into this part that's just dead clean with some reverb on it. And just really knocking out those jazz lines, really playing a couple 2-5-1s over the right chords and really playing the changes was a big deal. And here we go for the guitar solo. Ooh, you heard a little bit of something there. You heard some trumpet, I think, right? I didn't even mention, it's like, by this point in the song, I'm really kind of like at like a couple of odds because I really want there to be that thematic other instrument kind of sound. Like you can tell that I don't want the guitar to sound like a guitar on any of these distorted parts. But at the same time, I'm running into this situation where it's a lot of guitar. And so by, I think 2022, I hadn't worked on the song for years, but by 2022, I'd finally opened the sessions again. And it was after I had hurt my hand. And after I hurt my hand really bad is when I started Toned and Toneful, the original Toned and Toneful. And, I'd done the pilot episodes and I got a few episodes in. And I was just so fortunate to build this beautiful community of people that I got to meet. And the thing with Toned and Toneful that was interesting is like, it actually originally started as a conversation with my friend Yvette Young. It was Toned and Tones. And I was so into working out at the time. I was like working out all the time. I was wanting to, be buff, but at the same time, I was wanting to add that in with guitar. And it wasn't about like being buff, like Toned and Toneful was going to be us doing bicep curls together, but it was like about your physicality as a person and that coming into yourself as a musician, being able to utilize your strength to help you be more consistent and more, performative on the instrument and that you're of your choice. And so with that in mind, Toned and Tones was, at the time I was reviewing a lot of gear. I was more into like, oh, dude, check out this guitar. Here's a box opening. Here's these pickups versus these pickups. This is my opinion on this high gain sound versus this sound. And I was starting to change because at this point I'm starting to realize that I want to be an artist. I want to write music. I want to get away from, looking at music as or maybe musical sounds by comparison and start to really write stories. And so I just didn't want it to be like 5 minutes of guitar solos. And so I met this wonderful guy named John Heckathorn, and the dude's amazing. I mean, he's a great person to know. And one of the funny things about him is he's he's like very articulate and very like, he hits the nail on the head when he talks. Like he's not like me. I'm like all over the place. This guy is like, but somehow him and I, when we talk together, we really lock in on these different things. And the dude, he's got a great laugh. He's a funny dude, but he kind of has this way about him where he just nails things. And I'm just more like blah, 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 blah. And but him and I can like really lock in on these projects, how we work together. Our communication styles work really well. Nevertheless, so he, I asked him, hey, like, I heard your trumpet, I heard your album, you're incredible. It'd be incredible to have you on Breathe the Life. And he was like, he was up for the challenge. So I sent him some parts and we talked about it. And this is John's trumpet solo right here. Can you believe that? I mean, the dude's playing over the hardest time signature in the whole frickin' song. But the coolest part is, not only is John amazing at trumpet, which he was doing a muted, almost Rick Braun, Chris Botti style, trumpet, which I love. You're going to hear more kind of the music that comes from and where my inspirations in that come from. But it was just lucky that he has some of those similar inspirations. But, I mean, the dude's a drummer. And he writes progressive metal stuff. So he heard this and he's like, oh, I can lock in on the drum beat. And he's like, I know it's a little different, but I can lock in. And my guy did. And I remember getting this back. It was close to my birthday. It was maybe like a week from my birthday, 2023. And I remember hearing it and just being like, this is so legit. I remember being so happy. I remember being the feeling of just being past this being a guitar song. Like Breathe the Life was a modern jazz fusion song in my heart. That's how I felt. And maybe some people would expect, more shredding or something, but I felt that this was at this point jazz. And I was very happy about it. And so, we went from that searing intro, the jazz guitar part, the guitar solo, kind of the rock Andy Timmons, funny enough, that backing riff, that do 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 do. So it was like a B, C sharp, D, and then there's like some arpeggiations on G, kind of going on there, and it was like a very like Iris from Goo Goo Dolls kind of backing part. But it was just really wanting that build up, because it was so epic, and then having the Andy Timmons kind of, and then we go into this solo by John, and it's crazy, man. And then here's our interlude back in. You can tell by this point, I'm wanting to become Sean Lane. Can you believe that? I mean, John was able to nail out that melody on trumpet. And the guy was just like, he's a killer. He's an absolute killer on trumpet. And it was something that I was so excited about because, I mean, by this point in the song, I started really having a vision for the artwork. The artwork I showed you at the beginning by Jan Matthews. And I remember by this point, it was like, I knew I was ready for the artwork. So I started searching for an artist, and I finally found Jan Matthews online. I was just searching. It was such a crazy search. And I find her. And this, it ends up becoming such a cool kind of connection because Jan Matthews' art is going to be on multiple of my singles. My next single that's coming out, she has artwork on it. But Breathe the Life, at this point was finally like, finally represented a certain level of serenity. And that melody coming back like that, to me, is like one of the most exciting parts. Like I told you earlier, it's like a warm blanket just hugging you. Like that hook you can hold on to, that you go, I know this song. Wah wanna wah wanna wah wanna wah wah wanna na 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 da. Like, to me, that's the song, and everything else is based on that theme. And so, the ending here, I'm like trying to go full Sean Lane, like, and it's not by Sean Lane, maybe by sheer hyper speed playing, which there are times I can get that speed. But to me, it wasn't about that speed. It was about the complexity of the use of time. And you'll hear it in this tapping section right here. I mean, listen to that. And it's really kind of crazy, because when you hear that tapping section, it really is a play on that time. Because I didn't view it as like, oh, I'm going to tap 16th notes or something like that. It was kind of like the original part that I'm kind of like playing on the beat. Then the next part is almost all upbeats. It's kind of more, you're feeling the up. And at the end, I have this phrase that actually like really didn't fit in like to the end of the measure. I was like kind of like, it's not rushing. I did this thing that Sean Lane would, and this is why I would call it Sean Lane. Like, he almost like compresses time. He's almost kind of like, okay, this is the ending note and I have this much time to get there. But instead of looking at it like, oh, I'm gonna use 32nd notes instead of 16th notes, he's kind of like revving up through it. And the sound is not really like a clinical, like metronomic kind of sound. He's kind of like ripping through it. And so by this point, I think I kind of had found the voice for this song. It was to sound like a saxophone, and it was to have the freeness in the time fluctuation, that not only was it like jazzy, but it really was breathing the life. I'm going to play that section one more time. That tapping section is so trippy. All that whammy bar. And that ending, that New York almost jazz sound, do da da do do da na. That sound, it's almost like you're watching, NYPD Blue, and you're like seeing like the New York skyline and like the lights dim out or something. And I was always really strongly affected by imagery just as much as I am by the guitar and the music sound itself. Those sounds always kind of had a art component to them. And and that's what Breathe the Life was about. Breathe the Life was about choosing like the purpose, the creation, and making that a part of your life, that no one is truly alive. There is no breath of life until you chose your purpose and you made that your breath of life. And ever since I made this song, ever since this song was completed in 2024, late 2024, and then it was mixed and released in 2025, and it was released on Easter Sunday. And this next upcoming week is Easter Sunday. This is the same week. We're in Palm Sunday going in, and to me, it's just such a beautiful, amazing stretch of time has happened, and that really taught me to understand my purpose in this song and what came from it. And again, this is to help understand more where Toned and Toneful comes from, but on top of that, it's just a fun way for me to bring you guys information on the songs that I love. And, I wanted to start off with Breathe the Life, obviously, but there are so many songs that I listen to on repeat that I'm going to be bringing to you guys and breaking down just like this. Whether it's a lyric, whether it's a musical part, whether it's a little bit of theory, I'll always be going into something, but I want you guys to understand where that inspiration from the self-actualization all the way down to the enjoyment of music comes from in my life. This is a little more of a fun type of episode of Toned and Toneful. This is, the Repeat Offender series. I'm so excited about it. But, of course, you guys, I really appreciate you hanging out for the episode like I always do. If you made it to this point, I'm hoping that you had fun. This was meant to be fun. This is meant to be long form. And for you guys who are into it, you can see I have the death metal logo over here for Toned and Toneful to make it a little bit more fun, because Repeat Offenders, again, a more fun variation of the Toned and Toneful series. But we're going to be also, every Friday I'm going to be doing these ones, but on Sundays we're still going to be doing the self-actualization series, and that's going to be coming up this month with the Focus. We're going to be going into Focus as the monthly theme. Last month was New Beginnings, and I'm just so excited to be spending more time with you guys and going over things that I love. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Sunday for Toned and Toneful, the self-actualization series. And you guys have a good time. And above all else, stay toned and toneful.